Welcome everyone to the AnalyticsAriel channel, where we bridge the gap between real estate and technology. Today we have a really special guest, Burton, who's going to be giving us an overview of how to use PropStreams in order to build leads. Welcome, Burton.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be. And yeah, one of the biggest questions that we get is how can I use PropStream to generate leads both on or off market? And so I'd love to show everybody exactly how to do that today.
Perfect. And before we jump into it, if you don't mind just giving a background of where you're located, how long PropStreams has been around, and how it's currently helping investors.
Oh, great question. So PropStream's actually been around since 2006. So they've been in the business of collecting data for nearly 15 years now. I came along about nearly 10 years ago. 2013, I started as tech support and just fell in love with the way that we were collecting data and manipulating that data for our users. Obviously fell in love with our users. As they would call in, I would ask questions, and as you can see, I started studying more real estate stuff just so we can, answer their questions correctly. Now, what PropStream has done over the last 15 years is really collected data to solve two problems. One of the problems that you're going to need to solve is generating leads, and you can do that with PropStream. And the other problem is analyzing a property, right? Once someone does call you back, we need to know everything about that property, the financial information of the homeowner, like if there's a mortgage, an equity, and then to be able to run comps on that property as well. So that's what PropStream has done for nearly 15 plus years now.
That's excellent. So it's the full life cycle of finding the potential properties, owners, then analyzing the deal and being able to generate or use comps to analyze the deal as well.
You nailed
Excellent.
it right on the head. Yeah, whether you're an agent, a lender, a investor, most businesses in the real estate space need to answer those two problems: lead generation and analyzing the properties.
Perfect. Great. So I think at this point, feel free to start the demo and
Yeah.
I'll just ask any questions along the way.
The first thing I'm going to show everybody is just the data that we collect. So very transparent. Over the last 15 years, this is what we've been collecting and still collecting in our server as we speak. So we have residential, commercial, industrial, vacant land, office space, agricultural, exempt properties, just to list a few more. And then on top of buying those property classifications and their characteristics, we also buy data from other data aggregators. So we get tax assessor data, pre-foreclosure data, MLS on-market data nationwide, document images, estimated values, sale deeds, open mortgages, MLS history. So you can see an expired listings or a sold MLS property. So you can run comps using MLS data, master address, and the list goes on. We even created our own data like pre-probates. We've been able to successfully identify someone who's passed away and their name is on title. We even created a flippers list. We can actually show you in your neighborhood who's buying properties and either selling them or listing them within 2 years or less. So again, we have a lot of data. We've fun with that data, but most importantly, we've connected that data to one another. Now, you're probably wondering, well, how frequently do you guys update? And that's a question I can't answer. And I'll explain why. Every one of these bubbles here is a different data provider. And some data providers can update daily, like the MLS data. And some of it can actually update once a month, like the open mortgage data. People make a mortgage payment once a month. So the calculations come in once a month, right? Or someone, as we speak right now, can open a mortgage and we can get that data within the next 5 to 7 days. So there really isn't a set date on when everything gets updated. The way it works is we've created this spider web of data, and we're just constantly feeding what you're seeing on your screen every 24 hours. Whatever lands in our hands, we're going to put it into the user interface, what you're going to be using to pull leads as quickly as possible. So just wanted to address that from the get-go. Our data, how fast the data comes in, again, it varies depending on the data set. Now, we got the data. what are we doing with the data besides connecting it and having fun with it? Well, we do this with that data. We solve two problems, as we mentioned earlier, lead generation and analyzing a property. So when it comes to lead generation, we can build a list for you and you can get out of here after that. So you can build a list of senior owners and export the addresses. Or if you want to take it to part two, that's skip tracing. For an additional cost, you can get cell phones, landlines, and emails, and even market to the same lists. You can set up a website, send postcards, voicemails, and even emails. So our lead generation is very comprehensive, whether you're just here to build a list and get contact information or even market, we can help you with all three. Now, the second problem you're going to probably potentially face is what happens if you do the lead generation and someone calls you back. Then you're going to be able to use PropStream to actually analyze that property. So there's a reason to collecting all this data is because we wanted to make sure that we can help you with those two issues or two fundamental things that you need to solve. Now, today, we're going to be focusing on lead generation part one. I actually want to show you guys how you can build a list within PropStream. So here are the 4 steps to build a list in PropStream. First, you need to search a market. You can search by a county, a city, a zip code, or use our draw search feature, which I'll show you in a few moments. Then we're going to head into the filter and create a list. Then you're going to save your list and export that. So these are the 4 steps. Let's go into PropStream and see how this works. So when you log into PropStream, we're going to zoom in on your market. But as I mentioned, even though I'm in Southern California, PropStream's nationwide. I can search anywhere in the United States of America. So do you want to give me a city just to throw me off guard, perhaps?
Yeah, it'd be great if we could look at Tampa, where I'm based.
Tampa. So I can search Tampa and pull up Tampa, Florida. And instead of pulling up an address, because we're pulling up a city, we're actually going to give you all of our records in that city. So think of it this way. We just got a bunch of records and just like dumped it in front of you, right? Except it's through this system. Now, if you wanted to go through them, it's 50 per page. And as you can see, we're on page 1 of 5,070.
Wow.
So don't let us stop you from going through each page. Don't recommend that, obviously. It's not time efficient. So what we've done for you guys is categorize them. We've taken the 250,000 and broken them up into the first 8 categories that we collect. So we'll show you how many of those records are on the market, pre-foreclosure, auctions, owned by the bank, cash transactions, liens, how many are not answering their mail, and how many properties have 50% in equity or $100,000 in equity or more. So if I'm just an auction investor, then I would just click on auctions and just get the 108 here on the right-hand side. But some of these categories are still very, very large. I don't recommend anybody calling 7,500 properties. So what we've included after you've searched either Tampa or maybe a county or even a zip code, these are all available search features. The last potential search feature that you can perform is a draw search, which is at the top left of the map. So you can zoom in on area. I usually go from satellite to map view here at the bottom left. And what I do is through several left clicks, hey, what do you know? Burton way, look at that. So through several left clicks, you can make your own shaded area and then hit enter. And then we're just going to pull up the results in that area. So if you know a hot area or just an area you've just kind of resonate with, feel free to use this draw search feature. Regardless of county, city, zip code, or draw search feature, you need to have results on the right-hand side. Okay, so that's definitely part 1. We got to search a market. So let's go back to Tampa, but I just wanted to go through all the searches so you guys can see how you can perform a search. Now, when you're in a market, again, we're going to categorize them for you, but it's still pretty hefty. So what we've done is included a filter just to the right of your search bar. So by clicking on filter, here's how it works. We have a quick list choices drop-down menu, which shows you most of the categories that we have for you to start with. So actually all of them. There's 19 categories, and keep checking in periodically as we keep adding more. But the current 19 right now are the first 8 that we saw. So from on market to high equity, that's what these boxes are right over here. So they're also in here in the quick list choices. Those are the first 8. And then there's 11 more. Free and clear, these are properties with no mortgages, bankruptcy records, divorce filings, tax delinquent properties. As I mentioned, flippers, properties that have been bought and are now listed within less than 2 years. Failed listings, senior owners, 25 years of ownership, reverse mortgage, or a senior owner tax exemption. Vacant land, pretty self-explanatory there. Tired landlord, non-owner occupied properties with a minimum 15 years of ownership or more. Zombie properties, these are pre-foreclosures that are not answering their mail. They're pre-foreclosures and vacants combined. And pre-probate, as I mentioned earlier, pre-probate is something that we've created. This identifies a property where someone has passed away and their name is still attached to the property. So just like in the past, you can start with a list. And then from there, let's say it's the senior owner list, you can now use our additional criteria on the left-hand side to create something that you want specifically. Starting with owner occupied, do you want the owner living there? Yes. Or maybe an absentee owned property, a non-owner occupied property. Maybe you don't care if it's both. Eddie. So whether the owner's there or not, you get to choose. The next thing you get to select is whether someone's answering the mail or not. So just because someone's registered as living there, right? Someone could be living there, but the next question is, are they answering their mail? So if they are answering their mail, that would be an occupied property. And we're getting this data from the Postal Service. If they're not there, that would be a vacant property. So you could be living there, but if you're not answering your mail, that could be a sign of distress. And here are those 192 properties where the owner is supposed to be there, but we don't know why they're not answering their mail, right? So you get to create these different types of stories based on these simple 2 filters, and the filters go on. So if I wanted a owner occupied property and they're not answering their mail, I can do that. If I want a non-owner occupied property, this could be a vacation home. It could be a rental property. Do you want this vacation home occupied or rental property occupied? Or do you want it vacated where there's nobody in there? You don't have to worry about evicting anybody. These are the things that you can do with owner occupied and occupancy status. So we're going to let you create your own section there. But the next few categories are very important. Property characteristics. So you can specify, again, residential, commercial, depending on what classification you select, excuse me, will dictate the type of property types you can select from. So if I chose residential here, I can choose residential options. If I choose commercial, then I get commercial options here on the right-hand side. And again, we do have commercial records. We do have, again, office spaces, agriculture, et cetera, et cetera. After your property classifications, you have the MLS statuses. So MLS, excuse me, MLS status allows you to dictate whether these properties are listed on market with an agent or off market. Most of us are probably going to aim for off market. So on market, we're probably going to say no. But if you want something listed, you can say yeah, if you'd like. We won't stop you there. You can search for keywords. You can look for something that says maybe rehab in it, or investor friendly, or fix and flip opportunity, right?
Nice.
Agents will put that stuff in their listing. So feel free to look for that if you need to. Now, again, most of us will do off market, but for those that do want on market, tons of filters for you to choose from. And don't let it stop you from using it on an off market record as well. For example, a senior owner, yes, it's off market now, but how about we look for the ones that failed on the market, perhaps recently? Motivated seller, just couldn't be done through an agent. Maybe you're the next one in line, right? So some powerful stuff that you can do here again, because we've connected that data for you. Now, I know most of us will probably do on market no, and then call it a day here. No biggie. Now, we do have pre-foreclosure and foreclosure records, filters that you can apply to your search. So are any of these senior owners in a default, perhaps? There are 8 of them right there. Or maybe you want a foreclosure, a bank-owned property. There are no results in that search. Or maybe you want to remove those records from your search. Maybe you're just looking for senior owners that are not in a foreclosure, and we can remove those 8 properties from your actual search. So whether you want to add pre-foreclosures or suppress them, that feature can be done here. Ownership information allows you to look for years of ownership, the owner type, how many properties they owned, the location of the owner, and whether someone's on the property that may have passed away. Tax information is also included in this area as well. Lien, bankruptcy, divorce status filters, because we collect those records, again, you can either add this to your search. How many of our senior owners here, have a lien on their property, perhaps? How many have a bankruptcy, a divorce? You can specify the lien. You can even suppress that. Maybe you don't want to deal with a lien. So suppress any active liens from my search, and we're down to 246. You can look for recording dates, lien amounts. All of this can be, again, manipulated based on your criteria. Final 2 areas, which are very important as well: valuation and equity, estimated values, rental values. Most important filter here, I would say, is probably the estimated equity by dollar amount and percentage amount. If you're looking for a property with equity, you're probably going to want to put a minimum here. Again, all sorts of different strategies. We collect all sorts of different data: high equity, low equity, negative equity. So if you're, wholesaling a property, you got to have equity, then apply a minimum. It could be 30%, it could be 40%, whatever that may be. And finally, mortgage info. This allows you to search for up to 4 mortgages on this property. Think about it: senior owner, not in this house, it's vacated, and there's an open mortgage on that property. They probably want to stop making those payments, and you can potentially help them with that. So lots of filters here that can be added together or suppressed from your search to create those unique properties that you need. But let me make it easier for you. These are the 2 searches that can be performed in PropStream. So get your notes out and feel free to write them down. But the 2 searches that can be performed are the traditional search and the PropStream Forward Goal search. So what we just did a few moments ago was the traditional search. We chose a list, senior owners. We made sure it was off market. We added equity to it. And then we added our own property and owner characteristics, right? So maybe it was a single family, or maybe it was a duplex, it was an apartment complex. And then owner characteristics, 5 years of ownership, 10, 25, individually owned, out of state, vacant, not vacant. So that's what we just did a few moments ago. So let's just do one more example of that. When I go into PropStream, the first thing we need to do again is pull up a market, go into filter, and let's choose a different list. Maybe today it's pre-foreclosure. Okay, great. Chose a list. Now we still need to follow the next 3 rules. We got to make sure it's off market if we don't want to deal with an agent. If you do, put it on market. But that can be found in this area here, on market or off market. So most of us are going to want off market and then call it a day. Next is your equity. So high, low, or negative, depending on what you know. So if you are going to fix and flip it, or you're going to do wholesaling, you probably need high equity. If you're going to do short sales, low, negative equity would fit for you. But equity is your 3rd rule, and that can be found here, valuation, equity. Let's assume we're going to wholesale the property, so 35% or more. And then finally, your owner and property, your property and owner characteristics. Everybody's different here. So maybe today I want an owner occupied property. occupied as well. And I'd like it to be a residential single family property, 3 to 4 bedrooms, maybe built before 2000. Again, everybody's different. These are just things I'm throwing in here as an example. I can add, pre-foreclosure and foreclosure situations to the search. I can tweak the ownership info. Must be owned for 5 years or more by an individual. Maybe they own more than one property, maybe they don't. These are all the things that you can do. Lien, bankruptcy, divorce filters can be added. Do they have a mortgage as well? Again, this all falls under the property owner characteristics that you want. So after you pick a list, make sure it's off market, has the equity, and put your preferences in terms of property and owner characteristics. These are your results here on the right-hand side. Now you can check them all off, or every odd number if you'd like. Usually you'll probably check them all off, and then hit add to lists here on the far right. And when you do that, you can add it to an existing list that you have or create a new one. Tampa senior owners. Oh, I'm sorry, this is pre-foreclosures, and hit save. So again, what PropStream has done is mimic what investors have been doing for decades, if not centuries. Go grab a list from a source. In this case, you're just using us to grab one of our 19 categories, pre-foreclosures, and then just following the same traditional steps everybody has been performing from way back when. But because of technology and because we've done the hard work of having one data set communicate with another, which they don't do normally, you can now do the 4 golden rule search. And what this leans on is not a list, but a homeowner's situation. So let me explain what I mean by that. But before we go into the homeowner situation, let's just follow some rules first. Let's make sure it's off market, equity, property and owner characteristics. Why does that sound similar or familiar? It's because it's the 2, 3, and 4 rules. So we still have to do that no matter what. So let's clear all. Tampa, we're going to do everything but pick a list first. Okay, so we're going to do off market, 35% in equity. And then this time, owner occupied, and maybe it's been owned for 11 years by an individual, right? Or corporation, or whatever it is that you're looking for. Oh, and property characteristics. I want residential single family properties. So your off market, check, equity, check, property single family, owner preferences, 10 years, individual, check. Now we can create a situation rather than looking for a list. Because all this data is connected, we can technically manipulate it to make something that maybe someone isn't looking for just yet, or create a situation that may show up on a list eventually. Like here's an example. How about property owners that have 3 mortgage payments, perhaps? Yeah, sure, you're making the 3 mortgage payments, but I mean, 3 mortgage payments is quite a lot compared to someone who has just 1 mortgage payment, right? So maybe there is a reason for the 3 mortgage payments, right? Maybe they're just got carried away. We don't know unless we ask. Now, they're not as motivated as someone on an auction list, let's face it. But as they say, it's building rapport that's the key. So with these 32 individuals, maybe you introduce yourself now, expect a no, not interested, but build that relationship now and work with them. And maybe 4 or 5 months later, they're going to say, hey, I'm serious, stop calling me. Or the pain might start coming in, right? Maybe the interest rates are climbing in these 4 months. And those 3 payments are now starting to get really, really tight. And that notice of default appears. And you're there before everybody else gets there. And that's the idea with homeowner situations. It's not really just choosing a list. It's creating something that may cause some sort of an alarm later on. So it could be someone with 3 mortgages. Here's another example. I saw a realtor do this and I thought was hilarious and amazing at the same time. 3 bedrooms and 1 bathroom max. And I'm like, I laugh because of how clever that was. Looking for family members that need to upgrade, right, to a 4-2 or just a 2 bathroom. You've lived in this house for 11 years. You might have kids, right? 11 years or more is my preference. You might have kids. So yeah, they're probably teenagers now. You might need that second bathroom if they're, TikToking in the bathroom or whatever it is that they're doing. So it's creating these scenarios that you couldn't do in the past. In the past, you were forced to choose a list. Today, with technology, and PropStream, I believe, I hope we're at the forefront of it, and I believe we are, allows you to do this, allows you to actually piece things together that you could have never done in the past because people would have thought you were crazy, brought it up, but it can be done today. And with our new category, for example, pre-probate, I saw someone do this, and I thought this was a really unique search. Pre-probates that had only 5 years of less than ownership. No one plans a death, but here are situations of that unfortunate scenario. Just bought the property less than 5 years ago, and someone's now passed away. I saw another one, which was senior owners, and in our property characteristics, they were looking for 2-story buildings. Senior owners in a 2-story buildings. Hey, that actually makes some sense. There are some senior owners that may not have the capability to go to the second floor anymore, right? So these are just things I wanted to show you guys. Remember, after you save your search, you can then either export our data or you can skip trace it with PropStream and mark it directly to the list as well. All of that can be found here on the left side of our toolbar. So thank you so much, guys. I hope you learned a lot. I hope I sparked some ideas, but with PropStream, lots of data, tons of lists to choose from, or you can just use our 120 plus filters to apply those 4 golden rules. Thank you, guys.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Burton. I do have a few follow-up questions regarding the demo that you just gave. It's just honestly so amazing how so many different data sources have been able to be combined and how quick and responsive PropStream is just to be able to click things off and have a new list generate. So say if I'm a newer investor and maybe I'm looking at probate, I have some other filters, I'm looking at Tampa, but Tampa is large, just like any other city. So would you say, like I saw in the map view that it had numbers around the markers? Would it be better to try to target those areas that have higher numbers based on those markers?
Yes. So like looking at the concentration of that.
Yeah.
So I think that's a great idea. So if you're in a market and you're just like, hey, Tampa's too large, where should I look for properties? And I think what you did is a great idea. Click on a category that's a distressed category like pre-foreclosures, and you can just technically by the markers where the concentration of that is. Now, here's another trick I want to show you guys. If you ever, learn through our webinars, we do a PropStream, which teach you more about PropStream. There's a feature I like personally. It's this little tab right here. It's the what I call spreadsheet. So by clicking on that, it gives you more information on your results, right? So here's the idea. I'm clicking on pre-foreclosures to see just the pre-foreclosure records. And I could by the markers if you want to take that route. Or what I would encourage you to do is click on this tab right here. And now you can break it up by zip code. So by clicking on zip code, it puts it in numerical order from lowest to highest. And now I can see which zip code had the highest concentration of pre-foreclosures.
Awesome.
And then maybe focus on that zip code. Or if you're in that zip code, then great. At that point, you can just search for that zip code. So 33602 had several results. 33603 had several. And what you can do after you identify the zip code or zip codes with several results is just search them one at a time. Or with zip codes only, you can search up to 5 by separating with commas and spaces, and then just pull up those results or that zip code. And whether it's pre-foreclosures or building another list, again, what we're doing is we're starting with a list to identify the distress trends and then search that area and then build a whole separate list if you wanted to in that area.
Excellent. That helps a lot. And then my last question here would just be, now that you have your list, where do you find it in the future so that you can export it to Excel?
Great question. So anything that you save or anything that you build essentially. So if you build this an auctions list and click on your properties followed by add to list, it will be sent over to our My Properties section. So just think of this as your filing cabinet. Once you build a list, head on over here, and here on the left-hand side, under the marketing list category, you should find your marketing list. So for the Tampa pre-foreclosures we just saved, here they are. By clicking on that list, we're going to isolate the 186 properties in this list. If I were to click on another list, it's going to isolate those properties. So whatever list is selected is what you're going to see dead center. Now, here we can check off the addresses we want or highlight them all and click on the export button. This will generate that Excel sheet. Or you can go to actions and delete records if you want to. Maybe move properties into your favorite area, essentially separate the ones of higher interest, maybe put them in a different marketing list if you'd like. Other few things like add to a folder, delete the marketing list. You can view them on a map if you'd like. And finally, the last option is export your CSV file as well. So this area, My Properties, is where your marketing list will be stored. Check them off, and again, export or actions to perform more things.
Excellent. So you do get a lot of control to how you want to view that list result.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So I'm really looking forward to our next session, which will be discussing how to actually analyze the properties. So before then, Burton, how can people follow you and also check out your webinars?
Oh, absolutely. So you can follow me on social media. Just search Burton Alicondo, probably the only one there. In terms of following the webinars, just go to PropStream.com. At the top, there's an Academy button. Everybody gets a free account. You don't have to buy anything. You don't have to be a subscriber. If you are, great. If you're not, great. If you never will be, great. You can join the Academy. And what the Academy does is it just teaches you everything PropStream related, how to comp with PropStream, how to pull records with PropStream. But we also have our live webinars and webinar replays if you can't make it. So that's how you can get a hold of us and find our live webinars.
Perfect. Thank you so much for your time, Burton. Appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you guys so much for having me.